Today I'm going to talk to you about gay rights in Uganda. It's not exactly the normal subject I talk about, but it has some relevance in my own life. And they're about to pass a new bill which is going to strip the freedoms away of gay citizens of Uganda. And I want to start today by telling you a story of something I saw when I was passing through Uganda on my way home from southern Sudan. We were driving in a convoy, maybe 12 vehicles. It was a bunch of us who'd just left South Sudan. We'd left our regiment, we were coming home. We'd been doing volunteering there. And through a village, we just started seeing a bunch of crosses and stuff hanging off of it. And me, knowing that Uganda is a very, very devoutly Christian country, assumed that it was just a festival. So we got closer, we started seeing things hanging off of them. And pretty soon we realized that it wasn't puppets or anything, it was people. And they'd gone through, found everybody who'd been suspected of being gay, and crucified them. And there were about 30 of us in the convoy. And I know in my truck alone, no one spoke a word. We were just shocked. I mean, we'd been seeing the stuff that went on in Darfur, but it was just horrible. And the people who'd done it was the Lord's Resistance Army. They're a radical Christian group set up to create a government based on the 10 Commandments in Uganda. In reality, their leader, Joseph Kony's a friggin' madman. And it was shown. Anyone who, they'd gone through and butchered the family, but they'd taken special care to crucify the gays along the road. And the new bill in Uganda is kind of an oddity. It makes the government happy, and it makes the LRA happy. But in a lot of ways, it shouldn't be even thought of in this modern day. It wants to give 7 years to prison for people who counsel, encourage, or aid in someone committing a homosexual act, life in prison for those caught committing a sexual act, and the death penalty to serial offenders, whatever the hell that means, HIV positive offenders, and pedophiles. Now, pedophiles, that's cool with me, but it's the rest of it that just doesn't make sense. And this brings me to my first point. The role of gays in Uganda. Where exactly do they fit in? Now, Uganda is about 84% Christian and 12% Muslim. And they cling to their faith very, very faithfully. And that's why I love the country. They're devoutly Christian. And, church attendance there is among the highest in the world. But they're very, very intolerant. Anti-gay rallies are very common there. And the AP took pictures of people holding signs that said things like, police enforce our laws, in reference to the new law. Now, Uganda itself is in East Africa. Kenya is on its western side. In Sudan, we were passing through about here. We followed the Victoria Nile down to Entebbe. And couldn't really find a good status on its, or a statistic on its website about the population. But it probably a good 300 million people, or not 300 million, but about 30 million people there. And the government is very shaky. It's very authoritarian in some places. It's non-existent in other places. It's recovering from the dictatorship of Idi Amin, and it's incredibly unstable. And the police there wield immense power. Police abuse of gays and dissenters of the government is common. And it's thought that crimes against gays are almost never investigated, and in some places actively encouraged or committed by the police themselves. And in Entebbe, Stephen Langa, under the guise of an American Christian organization, organized an event that had many police officers, politicians, and teachers attending. And its agenda, the thing they were talking about was the gay agenda, the whole hidden dark agenda, Langa told the New York Times. Langa also told the New York Times that the gay movement is an evil institution that is there to take down marriage-based society and replace it with a culture of sexual promiscuity. The organization Gay Rights Uganda reported they reported on a man that admitted to being recruited, or being a recruiter of students to be gay. He said that he was taken to Nairobi in Kenya to receive training on how to turn students into gays. And I'm sorry, but that just seems a little bit batshit loco. Pardon for the cussing. Now, the men who committed the crucifixions, which we didn't see, the whole village was gone, were the Lord's Resistance Armies. They used child soldiers, and they're very well known for that, because clearly it is laid out in the Bible that you must use children to fight your battles. And that friendly-looking gentleman there is probably a former Ugandan army soldier that deserted to the LRA because, well, they get nicer crap there. And here's a sign I reference. It's a picture by the AP. It's average Ugandan citizens in the streets of Entebbe at a rally in support of the bill. And these are Uganda's friendly police. And that is not too uncommon sight, them walking around with shotguns and gas masks. They like beating people. Now that I've painted a picture of where gays fit in Ugandan society, I'd like to tell you about the law itself. It was proposed by David Bahati, and he wanted to say, or he said that it will protect children from pedophiles. Now, it gives 7 years in prison for helping, counseling, or encouraging a person to engage in a homosexual act, life in prison for homosexual acts, which is already punishable by 14 years in prison, and death penalty for serial offenders, HIV-positive offenders, or those engaging with a minor or disabled person. Now, it was the death penalty part of the bill for pedophiles and HIV-positive offenders was actually praised in this country. Couldn't quite find by who, but it was praised for the fact that it would aid Uganda in its HIV control measures. Now, yeah, they've got a disease that's going to kill them. Why do we need to be killing them just before their time? I'm sorry, that just doesn't seem right. And what exactly does helping, counseling, or encouraging a person to engage in a homosexual act mean? I think based on this, I would be getting 7 years in prison if I told my buddy David, who's gay, to go live or go hang out and go start dating a guy which he really likes and likes him. It would be basically like if I told my stepsister to start dating her boyfriend. But if I told a dude to start dating another dude, I'd get prison time. Now, life in prison for homosexual acts. We live near Palm Springs. There are a lot of gays out here. It's just a fact. Now, how would you guys feel if police went through, rounded up every single one of them, and put them in prison for life? How is that any semblance of human rights? That isn't. They're animals. They're being treated government wants to treat them like animals there. And the death penalty for serial offenders. What the hell are serial offenders? People who've been gay their whole lives? Now, the law has not passed, but has massive amount of support by the average Ugandan voter. And there are some dissent, but they're afraid of the government. They're too afraid to act. And the supporters also are, these three men are very prominent American evangelists. And their teachings about curing homosexuality have been widely discredited here. And as you see, the Iranian government and the North Sudanese government, which is a very, very hardline Muslim government, supports it. And the international opponents are pretty much everybody that counts. Swedish government gives most of Uganda their foreign aid, which was $989 million in 2006, which 30% of their budget. And that's why the president opposes the bill. He doesn't want his foreign aid, Let's never mind about the human rights problem. Let's worry about our foreign aid. And so, in conclusion, I'd like to tell you that, the bill, I don't mind the part about killing the pedophiles. I don't like pedophiles. I don't think anyone does. But it is going to strip away people's rights, and it does look like it will pass. And I just want to inform you that people shouldn't have to live in fear of their lives. So, thank you.